Hello and welcome to your friendly neighborhood mediocre podcast, a personal code of conduct, and I am Dio as usual. And yeah, that's it. But I thought I had a revelation. Yeah, that is what the title is going to be. I thought I had a revelation, but it turns out I did not. So yeah. I literally wrote it in my notepad. I had an experience going to go and stay with my older sister and my new nephew and niece. And I was like, okay, perspective of the world, understanding, because I always say this thing. No, I constantly always and repeatedly say this thing that even if everything feels so big in your own personal lives, your own projects, but when you zoom out to the grand scheme of things, it feels insignificant, and it's so easy to get lost either in the minute or in the grand scheme of things. It's very, I won't say it's very difficult to find a balance, because people do that. Most people choose to get lost in their personal things, but there are people on the fringes that choose to get lost and delude themselves in grand scheme of things, and there are some people who just completely separate themselves from reality because, well, they have chosen to do that. That is their choice. That is their vibe. That is the energy they've decided to give. That is the opinion they've decided to have. And I'm like, okay. So what's this random old soaps that I finally threw away. That was causing fragrance everywhere. Weird. But I thought I had a revelation. Let me even go back to my notes where I had the nonsense revolution. And I was really feeling myself that, oh no, that is a changed person. She finally understands what. But the things, I did have a moment where it felt like my eye was opened. It felt like my eyes were opened, and I could now understand why things were supposed to be the way it is. I was supposed to call this episode expanding my worldview. Suddenly it was all clear that the narrow and large don't need to be apart. And even in the whole sentence of the revolution, I literally put at the bottom, I was I hope things last. But then again, and maybe I no longer feel as clear as I did leaving my sister's space and coming back to my abode, because it kept on being how do I plan my 24 hours? How do I make sure that this time is set to myself, to give myself a business plan, what are the requirements that my customer wants? What does he want to see? Where are we going to? That kind of jizz and whatever. But I think it's important that we know where we are going to, and we don't know where we are going to. But like I said, the revelation was, I think I'm always constantly being drowned in the large, because I notice it in the way I live my life and what I consume online. I consume a lot of content that is related to people making an assumption of how the opposite gender, or people from faraway places, or people or people who live among them but of different appearance, either making assumptions about their behavior, making assumptions about, and even in the ones where you're on the lower end of the spectrum, or you're the one that is objectively abused in society, I find myself I find a lot of social media recommending more and more content of individuals who have decided to, because I'm not saying I find their pain interesting, because I don't want to use the word amusing. Definitely it's not amusing. It's in the moment sympathy. That's how it feels, in the moment sympathy. Yeah, I don't know. In the moment empathy. Because I do feel bad for them, and even when the empathy is gone, the in the moment empathy where I'm really feeling their feelings, I still continue to feel bad for them. But and I'm yes, these issues are real, these issues are important to be fought for, but are you going to make it the essence of maybe obviously their platform, their social media platform is not the entirety of their lives, but are you going to constantly put out this information? Are you going to just continually spread awareness instead of making effort to lead a change? Are you going to continue building the news? Is your goal to turn people against each other? I don't know. Maybe it's interesting to watch, like, people who, I won't even use the word feel victimized, because a lot of these people, they are saying the truth. These things do happen to them in society, so it's not, they're definitely being victimized, they're definitely being attacked, but it's how they choose to describe it, as if they're the only ones in the world, as if the 7 billion of us are not going through shit. Because even like ridiculously wealthy human beings, the only problems they have is the biggest problem they have. And if they're not with people in their social class or whatever, it's they find themselves feeling ridiculed because about the size of their problem. But the thing is, yes, understand that in my small sphere, my problem is a lot to me, but in the large grand scheme of things, it's insignificant. But some people will have problems that in their small sphere is massive, in the grand scheme of things is massive, and it's a horrible thing that could ever happen to a human being as well. But it also gives you perspective. I feel it gives you the idea of, okay, how am I going to solve this problem, by understanding that this problem is incredibly important to me, but it's important to no one else. It gives you the best. I feel it gives you the mindset to try to get yourself out of the situation. Now it's a question of, like, maybe it's one of those 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. in my case, because I was broad daylight, walking through crowded Lagos, looking at bodies and children begging, and like, that thing that I used to constantly say that I hate in church. They're not lying. It's just that shouldn't be the only source of your reality. Like, you don't, like, someone else's suffering shouldn't be your wake-up call to the fact that society and humanity is large and your sphere is small. You need to make sure that you have a bridge. Don't get drowned in the big and ignore the small, which is I have. And don't get drowned in the small and ignoring the big. And don't use one as an escape means for the other. Which is something that Dio is trying to learn. Oh my god, she's like literally going to the roots of a personal code of conduct, for like devising like things that she wants to be and what she wants to do, and like personality traits she wants to cultivate. Instead of just complaining about work, my baby girl is getting back to her roots. Like, see, which is fucking weird. I'm talking about myself. But we find ourselves in that situation where we understand that being our small world is important to us. Our small world is valuable to us. It is not valuable in the grand scheme of things, and that is not a problem. Just because your problems, your dreams, your hopes are not valued by the individual next to you, that doesn't mean it shouldn't be valued. It's just that it should be valued by you, the owner of the dreams, the owner of the lives. There'll definitely be people that will value your contributions, value your hope, value your whatever, but they don't have an obligation to do so. They have their own lives, and they have their own insecurities. They have their own like, a lot of their actions are built up by whatever society has pushed on them, or whatever experiences they've had that you have no idea about. This is not necessarily a bad thing. Like, somebody is a horrible person because, well, they have started that behavior and it has been in their own mind rewarding for them, or they feel like it has been rewarding for them. Like, they continue the behavior because they feel it has been successful, rewarding for them. It's fucked up behavior in the grand scheme of things. And my own definition of morality and the grand scheme of things, and like what is like something fucked up, is a question of how is it going to affect the life of the person next to you. It's a question. If it's going to negatively affect someone's life, if it's going to cause misery. Now, that's the thing. That's also like the whole concept of causing misery is subjective. Because if somebody who was used to like causing cruelty onto others loses like a particular privilege or something they've always had, they can feel a sense of misery, a sense of loss, a sense of oppression that is not objectively there, but it is there in their own mind because they are used to having a certain level of comfort. That kind of shit. I don't know. See that you're talking whack philosophical shit like she used to. But I feel this new feeling, even though it's something I've been saying constantly, I actually genuinely feel it. And it's weird how it's like walking through a sea of it's not a sea of middle classness facing suffering, because there was no wealth, because like it was the area I was passing is like a middle class poor area, like middle class people, like Lagos people, everybody lives with everybody. It's just really really rich people who live alone, and even then the poor people who serve them like are still around their area living in shanties. So it's not like really rich people who truly live alone, or like the poor people who work for them just live with them. So it's not like really really rich people who live alone. I don't even know where that train of thought even took me to, but I understand that there is like having that as like what I want to know, what I want to do, where I want to be. Like it grants you a certain level of peace, and it gives you the ginger to. It gives you, I won't say it gives you ambition, but it gives you the ginger to want to identify proper steps, to want to outline things and get yourself to the next step. Like I always want to be organized, but more. But it gives you the ginger, understanding that it gives you the ginger to fix your problems in your own small world, and at the same time grants you peace and acceptance of the fact that well, you are not in control of majority of the situation. And if the small aspect of it is if you want to your small world to interlock with the bigger world, like maybe you want political power, you want massive economic power, you want power, well, you understand that you have to put effort in that way. But if you don't want power, but you understand the world is larger, you put effort to improving your small world, but you also accept that if the larger world affects you, you have to take it like that. You can put as much buffers as in place, but since you did not seek for power, whatever those in power do, or whatever the economic winds, or however the economic winds change, you need to accept that. And that's one thing I want to ginger the people that I have abandoned. Like we need to start working towards our dollars and by the end of the year, that kind of thing. Because I look at like the grand scheme of things, like in my nation now, like worldwide, there is a war going on in like several countries. Children are suffering, they're starving, their lives are miserable, and their lives are objectively bad. There are people in debt. Even in wealthy countries, there are people in crippling debt. People debt or debt. I don't know. People in crippling debt, and they can't feed themselves. People are making the choice to go hungry. People are making the choice. Children are being malnourished, whether wealthy or poorer countries. It happens. Unfortunately, people are being tortured. People are being raped, and that is those are like the horrible things that are horrible in the grand scheme of things, but they happen in people's individual lives. And there are individuals who will never face these things. And there's some individuals who have no choice. Their whole world will collapse around them, and they will have to face these things. And they wouldn't mean for it to be so, but it just happened. So let's look at this. Let's look at my country as a case study. My current small world is my current goals. The things that bother me is to have a decent amount, is to be well rested. But I have traffic, mind-numbing traffic. I want to be well rested. I have a wanting to consume content to occupy my mind thing. So that's really, I want to be well exercised, but because I cannot find it between, I have to find sleep, and I have to beat traffic, and I have to get to work on time. That's another thing. That is my own personal life. I want to feel fulfilled, which is I want to be in a position where I feel inflation will no longer affect me, which is that I keep constantly changing my definition of fulfilled because the larger economic situation changes. Because I remember last year when I had my first big pay raise, I was like, oh, definitely next year I'd be feeling so freaking secure. My income level has gone almost times. Okay, where I was at the beginning of last year, it's basically it's times 8 of where I was in the beginning of last year. No, it's like almost times 6 where I was as at last year. Like let's say like 2 months ago last year. It's times 6 of where I was. And as at this time last year, it just became, no, it was still times 6. At this time last year, it was times 6 of where I was. Then like later in the year, it became, where I am now is times 3 of where I was. But I'm at a position that I still do not feel secure in terms of like finances, even though like, because of the larger economic situation that I cannot control, my currency spiraling down into emptiness, going down to being worth nothing. And it almost feels like in dollars I've been earning the same thing for years, even though my income in my home currency has like from the first time I earned a monthly salary has freaking quintupled. But in dollars, in the economic currency of the world, it has not really increased, and it brings me a sense of insecurity. Another thing that in my own small world is I want to be confident in my analytic skills. I want to be able to curate my knowledge and present myself as an expert. I know I've done enough, and I'm not just within my organization. I want to know that I can do this for people, get things done, and make sure that I make people's jobs easier. Not just having like a one chance random off point of information that really helps nobody. And next is I want to provide people with like a sense of I want to be able to do things I need. I want to decide that okay, I have learned this thing, this is what I know, this is not I want, and for me right now, that goal is that within a year I should have gotten enough skill competence to no longer earn in naira, which is a big ask. But I still feel like I want to remain in this country for a couple more years. Even like, if anything, because I'm more of this wait and see. I don't want a country who's spiraling into misery and there's just nothing, there's no food, and you have a generation of malnourished individuals, children who are short. Because I feel it's just so obvious when you see it in our bodies. Just compare us, because even those of us who are middle class, who parents had knowledge of nutrition and all those things, they just never really followed them. They just kept on feeding the children staples, not enough like protein. So it's like very obvious in our bodies that there was potential for more, but we never really reached our genetic potential because the nutrition was not there for like most like sub-Saharan Africans, even in the middle class world ones. Because even in like wealthier like medieval times, even ridiculously rich people, they just didn't feed their children quality food. It's the adults, when their bodies were no longer able to grow and all those things, that were now eating like the protein, the things that you want to feed children. You want them to have access to, you want to make sure their diet is nutritious, they are growing to their full capacity, they have enough rest, they are able to process things fast, and whatever it is food does to you, and that awesomeness. Because you see like a lot of young people, especially of like lower economic classes, because even though it's obvious that we had higher genetic potential than where we currently are, like it's nothing in comparison to like somebody who is legitimately poor, when their bodies just for the most part look childlike, and it's just like, wow, this is the level of malnourishment I never faced. But like, that is off point. You find yourself wanting, you find yourself wanting structure, you find yourself wanting hope, you find yourself wanting to move on forward. And things I keep getting drowned in like distracting myself with one thing. I want to do well. I want to be able to present my ideas, present my usefulness. I want to be able to be confident in the things I have done, in the value I have provided. And I think I have finally come to the point that I think I have finally reached the point. I think that I have accepted that, well, no hero is going to come and guide me in the path of the data scientist. I have to do this myself. I have to present myself as somebody who is confident, who knows what they're talking about. Who That's the one thing I keep saying, that I want to be an individual who can get sources and back their sources, back references. So I can clearly state that, okay, why did you do so and so? I can be like, I did so and so because of so and so. So yeah. I don't know. It feels like, yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like, I don't know whether I want to go like after 20 minutes or after like whatever, and like continue to work. But that is like just my minute sphere. Me, what I want, the things that bother me, the things that keep me up at night. But there are also things that keep me up in the moments, like when you're watching a YouTube video and somebody is talking about like and things that may never actually affect me, because if I stay in my own country, like, because I don't know, I feel like first worlders are like so like good at like dragging you into their own worries, their own societal ills, like, especially those who like spread their gists like around. I was like, wow, it's amazing. But I'm like, it also brings to the question of like, what is your value as a human being just to the opposite gender? Like, now this is not even looking at an individual in a case by case basis. This is not looking at, okay, people who talk over you, people who are just not on your speed, like, just like people who talk over you, people who are just, you understand and you accept the fact that you would never be friends with this person, you just work with this person, and that kind of situation. But this is not like this is just like swiping that there is a plan against us, like, or like all men have plans against us, or yeah, the things that most of the time you're not crazy, but I think these are happening to you. But I almost want to reach out and hug the person who is talking about like this grand, and to look like at your small circle. Like, people in the grand scheme, though they show patterns, I see me talking like a data analyst, are also like individuals. So it's important that you don't lose, like, you use the big things to explain some quirks in the small people's, in your small circle. Like, okay, this person has a tendency to talk over you because of this or because of that, because of his gender, because of his age, because of his race, because of whatever. But he is still an individual who wants to talk over you and doesn't want to change. That is him, that is her, that is the person. Don't let the big things, the tendency for people of a particular thing, because if something they have a lot of witnesses to do a particular thing, cloud you from the people you actually know or the situations that you actually find yourself in. I almost want to reach out and hold them that, yes, this is highly likely to happen, but treat individuals on a case-by-case basis. You are not some freaking statistician. Well, I don't, at least I even though I am a freaking statistician in some places, but like, you're not a business, you're not a government, you are an individual. Like, when you make theories, you make assumptions, you make this, like, make it about a singular person, about all the information you possibly gather about the person. Don't use like vague information you gathered about people who are like this person. You're not trying to build a recommendation engineer. You're trying to either find love or trying to be friends with somebody. So like, you have to be more specific than using broad categorizations of individuals. Yeah, I don't know. This is an abrupt end, but it has been a personal code of conduct, and I hope you have a productive week. And I also hope that for myself. I'm going to be on a journey of finding structure, finding happiness, doing things that make me happy. I should just spend the money, Dayo. You have the money while you can afford it, while the dollar hasn't crashed. Just spend the money. Things I want to buy. I want to get like a bunch of A4 paper. I want to get a binder, or should I just get like a nice sketchbook? Maybe I should browse Jumia before I go to bed. A nice sketchbook. I want to plan like my living. I'm thinking maybe I should look for somewhere like a cubby to hide at work. then like focus on studying and doing personal stuff for 2 hours every day, immediately it's 5. And maybe like for 1 hour in the middle of the day, like 2 hours, they just be like, this is Dayo's time to work. This is Dayo's time to be confident in herself, measure what she knows, know where she is. Like just 2 hours hiding somewhere. But maybe tomorrow look for where to hide. Then 7 p.m. you leave your laptop in the office and you go home. You get home. I don't know if I want to work out in the morning. You get home. Maybe you stretch a bit. No, you draw. You stretch. And you go to bed. And when you wake up, you go to bed consistently by 10. You wake up consistently by 5:30. Maybe 5:30 is a bit of a stretch. Okay, you go to bed consistently by 9:30. You wake up consistently by 5:30. You work out for 30 minutes. You need to get heavy skipping ropes. You work out for 30 minutes, or maybe like a heavy rope in general, so that you can lift. Yeah. You work out for 30 minutes. You work out for 20 minutes because you need to get back up. So you work out for 20 minutes. You shower. You get dressed. And you go to work. You make sure you do things. You work in blocks of 2 hours. Give yourself 30-minute breaks of just letting your mind wander. And you do a good job. And you're happy, Dayo. It has been a personal code of conduct. Have a productive week. Goodbye.